Well, good morning, everybody. It's Grandpa Scott, and I'm here to read a new story to you today. And hopefully, it's going to be an exciting adventure, too. This one's a little bit off the wall, but I suppose sometimes Grandpa Scott is, too. The story today is called Louise, The Adventures of a Chicken. Did you know that chickens have adventures? I didn't either. Well, maybe today we're going to learn something new together. Shall we get started? All right, let's go. Chapter 1. Louise Art at Sea. Louise longed for adventure. She left the hen house and went to the sea, where the water was deep and dark. Whoa! Louise stood alone on the deck of the ship and let the wind ruffle her feathers. The sailor spoke a language she did not understand. Blarney, Blarney, Blarney. Pirates! Just as they were thinking that the sea was not quite the adventurous place she imagined it would be, a pirate ship appeared on the horizon. Oh my! Louise watched the black-sailed ship draw near. Her heart beat fast within her feathered breast. Here at last was a true adventure. We love adventures. Look, shouted a one-armed pirate. I have found a chicken. He held Louise high over his head. Fricassee! The chicken is fricassee the chicken! Shouted the pirate with extremely dirty hair. No, no, the chicken, she must be fried, said the golden-toothed pirate. Pirates argued, heated about how best to consume Louise. Listening to them made Louise's heart beat alarmingly fast in her feathered breast. Stewed, shouted one pirate. With dumplings, said another. Who cares how? Shouted a third. Let's cook her. Uh-oh, not looking good for Louise. The pirates were still arguing when a storm began to brew. Look at the waves on the ocean. The wind howled and the thunder boomed. Rain crashed down. The ship was tossed about on the high sea until it cracked in two and began to sink. Louise saved herself by clinging to a piece of timber. She floated past the pirate with dirty hair. He reached out for her with both hands. Fricasseed, he said, and then he disappeared into the mysterious ocean depths. The wind stopped howling, the sea became calm, and the sun rose. Louise used her wings to paddle as she worked. She thought often, quite fondly, of the warm, dry hen house. On her seventh day alone at sea, Louise spied land. She guided the makeshift craft to shore and hopped all the way back to the farm. Oh my goodness, that must have been a long way. She arrived just in time for dinner. Where have you been, Louise? Asked the old hen named Monica. Oh, I've been here and there, said Louise. She hopped past Monique. She went into the hen house and settled down in the straw. She tucked her beak beneath her wing. She closed her eyes, and there, safe and warm in the hen house, Louise slept the deep and dreamless sleep of true adventure. That was quite an adventure out on the sea, but Louise is not done. Oh no! Chapter 2, Louise Up High. Still Louise longed for adventure. When the circus came to town, Louise left the hen house and followed the bright lights and the loud music. What is that big animal there? Oh yeah, it's an elephant, all right. She ended up in the line for auditions. What is your act? The ringmaster asked. Louise flapped her wings. She clucked. No, no, said the ringmaster. What is your act? Louise strutted back and forth. Now see here, said the ringmaster. If you want to join the circus, you must have an act. But, mon chéri, said Mitzi, the aerialist, look at her. How she moves. She is meant, of course, to be on the high wire. The high wire? I don't know about that. What do you think? Whoa, the book has to be turned so we can see how high that wire is. The high wire is actually quite high. Louise walked its length, carrying a pink umbrella in her beak. Far below, people clapped and cheered. Louise looked down at the world and was charmed to discover that everything had become very small. However, too soon, walking on the high wire with a pink umbrella became rather mundane. Louise found herself longing for a little excitement. It was then that the lion got loose. Oh my! Louise's heart began to beat fast in her feathered breast. Here at last was true adventure. Would you want to meet up with a loose lion? I don't think so. Can you see it? There you go. She became so excited she dropped her pink umbrella, lost her balance. She teetered, she tottered, she fell. The lion positioned himself carefully. He smacked his lips and opened his mouth. He was about to eat Louise when she fell from the high wire. What's going to happen? Louise flapped her wings, and at the last minute she managed to rise out of the reach of the lion's jaws. The lion roared, "Roar!" The audience cheered, "Yay!" Louise, her heart beating much, much too fast in her feathered breast, landed on the ground and started to run. Ahead of her, she spied a clown. She leaped atop his head. The clown put his hat on, covering Louise. Oh my! She's disappeared underneath the clown's hat. Safe in the clown's wig, hidden beneath his hat, Louise thought of the hen house, and what a quite spectacular lion-free place it was. She decided it was time to head home. "Goodbye, my sweet Kunkunde," called Mitzi as Louise left the circus. "Goodbye, my darling chicken." "You can't leave," said the ringmaster. "We have just designed the most unique and death-defying act." Louise ignored him. She hopped down the road toward home. When she arrived back at the farm, Monique said, "What have you been doing, Louise?" "Oh, this and that," said Louise. She hopped past Monique and went into the hen house. She settled herself comfortably in the straw. She tucked her beak beneath her wing and closed her eyes. And there, safe in the warm hen house, Louise slept the deep and peaceful sleep of true adventure. And there she is with all the other hens, taking a snooze. But that adventure is not over yet. Nope. Chapter 3, Louise Unbound. But Louise continued to long for adventure. She left the hen house and journeyed to a land far away, where she discovered a fabulous bazaar. Louise strolled the length of the market, admiring the plump tomatoes and the green asparagus, the winking jewelry, and the colorful cloth. The vendors called out greetings to her, and Louise nodded politely in return. Wonder where this is. Aha! Inside a dusty purple tent, she held out her wing to a fortune teller, who examined her feathers closely and said, in a heavenly scented voice, Yes, I see adventure. I see the crossing of seas, the walking of wires. Also I see the dark stranger." What is she talking about? Louise didn't think much of this fortune, but she nodded her thanks and left the tent, where she immediately met a tall, dark stranger who was sweeping off her feet and shook her very hard. The man yelled at her. Louise couldn't understand what he was saying, but it was obviously that he was quite angry. Her heart began to beat fast in her feathered breast. He carried Louise away by her feet. Here at last was true adventure. Can you see her there? The guy's got her by her feet. He put her in a cage that was full of other chickens and locked the cage tight. Louise was being held against her will. She was a prisoner. The other chickens did not seem to be aware of this injustice. Louise tried to rally them. Chickens don't belong in cages, she told them. They looked at her. Chickens must roam free, she said. The other chickens turned away from her. Louise twisted her head out between the wires and examined the lock. And then she set to work to picking it. Above her, the sun burned high in the sky, and as she worked, it slowly began to descend. Finally, at dusk, Louise's patient work paid off, and the lock fell open with a creaky sigh. "We are free," said Louise to the other chickens, and the news appeared to stun them. "Free," said Louise again. She hopped to the ground and gestured to them to follow her. One by one, the other chickens left the cage. One old mud-colored hen pecked at the hard-packed earth and gave a tentative cluck of pleasure. Two gray hens gazed up at the twilight sky in wonder. Looking at them, Louise felt a wave of longing. She missed suddenly her sister hens. She missed the hen house. She wanted to go home. And so she headed back to the farm. Crossed with a camel, on a steamship, the African Queen, she hopped aboard an air balloon. Wow, she was going a long way to get back home. At the end of her long journey, Monique was there waiting for her. She said, "Oh, Louise, where have you been?" And Louise looked at Monique and said, "I will tell you." Chapter 4. And she did. The hens gathered round. They trembled as Louise told them of her adventure on the high seas. They murmured in alarm as she described the lion. They clucked in disapproval when they heard of the imprisoned chickens. And as they listened, their hearts beat fast, fast within their feathered breasts. They said, "Oh, heavens, Louise!" They said, "Oh, my goodness, Louise!" They said, "What true adventure have you had, Louise?" "Yes, Louise, I have." And when she was done with the telling, she settled down in her nest and tucked her beak beneath her wing. Her sister hens did the same. Outside the henhouse it began to rain, and inside the henhouse, safe and warm, all the chickens slept the deep and dreamless and peaceful sleep of true adventure. And there they are, all tucked in from their big stories and adventures. And this is the end of the story. The story of Louise, the adventure hen that craved it. Do you crave adventure? Are you ready for something more? Because it's time. It's time to go outside and have some fun. Because this one clucker is all done.